Well, thank you everyone for coming out. At this point in time, I'd like to introduce Pittsburgh Steelers owner and president, Art Rooney II. Art.
Good morning, everyone. Thanks for joining us here on the North Shore, the North Side, for the rededication of some great sculptures that once upon a time welcomed people to the North Side as part of the Manchester Bridge. And we've got a number of people that we're going to hear from here in a minute, and a few people that are with us tonight. First, two people who probably came across the Manchester Bridge more than anybody else here, and it's my mother and father. Ambassador Miss Rooney, thanks for being here and your support. Our state representative Jake Wheatley is here. Jake, thank you for being here. Councilwoman Darlene Harris represents our district here. Darlene, thank you for being here. And also want to welcome you to Pittsburgh's bicentennial. As many of you know, a lot of activities going on this week, and we'll hear more about that as time goes on. Want to thank our team here at the Steelers, and led by Heidi Edwards, who helped navigate through getting the statues stored and organized, and then designed, and really a lot of people helped make this happen. The statues were actually owned at this point by the Pittsburgh History and Landmarks Foundation, and thank goodness they kept track of them for these many years to make sure we didn't lose them. My friend Tommy Averill over here first mentioned to me probably almost 15 years ago that we got to find the sculptures and make sure they get restored somewhere. So we kind of started to look around and figure out where they were, and figured out at that point that our friends up at the Children's Museum were thinking of incorporating them into the Children's Museum, and they weren't able to make that happen. So we wound up storing them over here at Heinz Field for a number of years, and until we figured out a good place for the statues to be erected. So this is the first of what hopefully will be a couple of projects that are done to restore all of the sculptures that were on the bridge. So we're excited to kick things off today with this. And with that, I would like to ask someone who knows a lot more about restoration than I do, and that's the president and co-founder of the Pittsburgh History and Landmarks Foundation, Arthur Ziegler.
You would think these are all lightweights. They have traveled from the bridge to the old post office museum where we erected them, to Heinz Field when the Children's Museum wanted to remove them for expanding their parking, and now to here, and one to go, and we hope it will be seen not too long from now, erected in Manchester. A quick thumbnail history of what happened here with this bridge. You see the pier there of the Manchester Bridge. That's why this location is so marvelous. But there was a preceding Manchester Bridge. It was privately built, it was wood, and it was a covered bridge, and owned by a company, I believe, in Illinois. The Secretary of War of the United States government said, that bridge has to go, it's too low. And the company didn't move it, and they were fined, and it went to the Supreme Court, and the Supreme Court said, it goes. So it went. The city then decided it would do the bridge, and in 1908 it began planning. And that went along well until they decided to issue $1 million worth of bonds, and the Supreme Court appeared again and said, you can't do that, city. You may be familiar with some of this, mayor and county executive, even today. So the city had to pass new legislation, which it did, and it then commissioned Stanley Rouse to design the bridge. That was in 1910. 1911, construction started. Pittsburgh firms, Draveau, American Bridge, Booth and Flynn were the contractors. They were from nearby, Ligonier. They did many of the streets in Pittsburgh. And along the way, the city decided it would appoint an arts commission and give that commission a great deal of power. And that commission then commissioned porticos, the sculptures for each end of the bridge, and submitted them to the city. And the city said, well, we gave you a lot of power, but we didn't give you any money, and we're not paying $200,000, $300,000 for these sculptures. So Charles Keck from New York was commissioned to do this one and the other that might go to Manchester. And the bridge opened, however, in 1915, and the Art Commission and the city were just beginning to agree on what they would spend, which was around $40,000 or $50,000. The bridge opened in 1915 in August. No portal sculptures, but they appeared in 1917. The bridge, of course, was demolished in 1970. It was covered with iron, steel, and bronze ornamentation. We went and rescued all of it. You will see some of it today on the exterior of our preservation resource in Wilkinsburg. Some we still have in storage, and the other sculpture here, the portico, the Steelers have in storage. These are marvelous. I don't know any city that can duplicate them. I don't know any city that has the tremendous benefactors of the Steeler family, the Rooneys. They have made all of this possible. We're deeply grateful to them. And I think this will be a contemplative area in a very busy area down here on the North Shore. And we thank the Steelers and the Rooney family for their largesse in enabling these to be seen by the public.
Thank you, Arthur, not just for your cooperation in this project, but for everything you are doing to preserve the history of our region, which we are blessed with great history, obviously. Next, obviously, to do a project like this, we had to work with various public agencies and authorities, and really had a lot of cooperation to make sure we found the right location to do this in, and I think it turned out great. But I want to thank the mayor and all the folks, the city agencies that helped, again, make it possible. And so, Mayor, I know you have a busy weekend, so we'd appreciate you joining us to say a few words. The Mayor of the City of Pittsburgh, Mayor Peduto.
Thank you, Art, and Mrs. Rooney, Ambassador, thank you as well. This will be something that will help to tell the story of Pittsburgh. Back in 1915, where Mayor Armstrong had the distinct pleasure of being able to cut the ribbon on this bridge. It was a very different city. And as we celebrate 200 years this week in our bicentennial week, we look back and we think about the history of what and how this city was made. And we take those parts with us for the journey as we go into the future. Christopher Gist and Guyasuta were guides, helping people into a brave new world, to be able to show them how to get through the wilds of western Pennsylvania. Mr. Gist and a guy named George Washington took a little dip in the Allegheny River, and a very cold, I think December day, almost killed George Washington. But today there's a street named for Mr. Gist right up in Uptown. Guyasuta was a guide for both the French and the British, and telling them how to get through this area. And today we celebrate not just their history, but our history. The shared history that we have over 200 years, and we preserve it for the next generation to know as well. So many of us remember as kids going to Buell Planetarium and seeing the big anchor and seeing this beautiful sculpture. I was wondering where it was the past few years, to be honest. And Arthur, one of these days, I got to see that storage place of yours and all the treasures that are there. But this week we will do more. We will continue to preserve our past as we start to build our future. So what a wonderful gift to the city this bicentennial week. Thank you, Art, for making it happen.
Thanks, Mayor. And as I said before, many public agencies have been helpful in making the project happen, and the county is no exception. And we're happy today to have County Executive Rich Fitzgerald here. Rich.
Thank you, Art, and I want to congratulate you and Arthur for not only preserving a big part of Pittsburgh history, but even educating some of us East Enders who don't have some of the North Side history that we know. And I've started to learn a little bit about this and the passion. And I can say, Ambassador Rooney, I remember when he took me on a little tour of Manchester a couple of years ago. I think he has every bit as much passion for this neighborhood of Manchester as he does for that football team that he operates. But this is incredible to see. Some of us didn't know very much about this, and as I heard the history of how these bridges connected, how the bridge connected over to what is obviously now Point State Park, as the mayor said, this was a very, very different place. Probably not anywhere near as wonderful as it is right now, as it was a scrapyard and more of an industrial place. But what we do know is Pittsburgh, as it moves into the future, we don't want to forget our past. We want to remember our history and our heritage because it's a big part of our DNA. And as we pass these values on to the next generation, it's important that we preserve this. So I do want to thank all the folks that held on to this since 1970, the Steelers and the Pittsburgh History and Landmarks Foundation, the Buell, and all the folks that make sure that Pittsburgh does get preserved. So as we celebrate the 200th anniversary, this is one more thing we can keep as part of us. So thank all of you. Art, thank you for your work on this. Congratulations.
I just noticed that Jane Werner is here, and Jane, the Executive Director of the Children's Museum, also deserves some thanks for keeping track of the sculptures for a number of years and helping us, again, sort of handing them off to us as we found a way to make this project happen. As has been mentioned, this is the start of a big weekend in Pittsburgh, a big year in Pittsburgh as we celebrate a bicentennial, and Andy Masich, the president and chairman of our Western Pennsylvania, Senator John Heinz Western Pennsylvania History Center, is here to cap off and give us a little perspective on the bicentennial and also give us a little a send-off for the ceremony. So, Andy.
Well, this is a big day. 200 years in the making. Pittsburgh is 200 years old this month. This month, July of 1816, the first mayor of Pittsburgh took office. I know some of us remember that we celebrated our 250th anniversary a few years back, but that was the anniversary of the founding of Fort Pitt, right across the river there, when George Washington and General Forbes rode in and found the smoldering ruins of Fort Duquesne and said, what are we going to call this community here at the forks of the Ohio? And they said, well, why don't we call it Pittsburgh? We'll call it Pittsburgh. And that's why Pittsburgh has an H on it to this very day. Like Edinburgh, Scotland, Forbes was a Scot. And that seal behind me was adopted in 1816. And it pays tribute to William Pitt, the Earl of Chatham. Those three bezants, those gold coins with the eagles on them, and that blue and black, or white and blue dicing on it. That all goes back to William Pitt. And the castle up there, that three-turreted castle, that represents Pittsburgh, the strength of Pittsburgh at the three rivers. This is part of our history, and what a great time to unveil it. Thanks to the Rooneys and the Steelers for thinking of doing it this year, the 200th anniversary. And tomorrow we're going to kick off the celebration with a birthday bash at the History Center. 2,000 of your closest friends are going to be there. The mayor's going to cut a cake shaped like the city of Pittsburgh. We're going to have to use swords to do that, Bill, because it's so big. And there are going to be bands and fun. Food from Pittsburgh neighborhoods will be there. And then Saturday, we're going to have a parade. Of course, this is Pittsburgh. We're going to have a parade. 200 entries are going to come down the street. I hear the Stanley Cup may be in the lineup, but you'll also see descendants from 56 Pittsburgh mayors. 490 people are coming from Europe and the United States, all descended from our Pittsburgh mayors. It's going to be a great party, and I hope you will all take pride in thinking back those 200 years of how far we've come. In a way, it's sort of appropriate that the Steelers are doing this, because in 1933, when the Steelers got started, Dan Rooney was there. That was the logo of the Steelers. They used the city seal for the first team's logo until they came up with that hypocycloid, which is pretty sexy. It's pretty good. So this is part of our history. Look at the steel, look at the staining on those copper figures from the steel, from the bridge. That it talks about the past and the future. Yeah, we've got a patina on our city, but you know what? We're looking to the future, and it's a bright future. Thanks, Pittsburgh. Happy birthday. And we have some gentlemen from Fort Pitt Museum. It's the Fort Pitt Independent Company. Forward. Make ready. Present. Fire. Happy birthday, Pittsburgh.
Well, thanks, Andy. Thank you, men, for that great conclusion to our ceremony today. Thank you all for being here. I just want to mention a few of our partners who helped make the construction happen, and that was the American Ornamental Organization, Atlantic Engineering, DLA Architects, Aquatra Bonsi, Ibishi McGee, and Mascara Construction. So thanks to all of you for being part of making this happen. Have a great weekend, everyone. We're going to have a little photo up over here for a minute, and thanks again. Happy birthday.